And hello, it's time for MLB This Week. It's the Memorial Day edition of MLB This Week, where we're talking baseball. Each week, some of the greatest stories in baseball, some that you may missed, and some that you may know about. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary Mack.
And you're inside another edition of MLB This Week Show. And what a great weekend it is, Gary. I think it's sort of the official start of baseball for me. Hot weather and great baseball weather.
Yeah, great baseball weather and the official start of, or the unofficial start, I should say, of summer. So always a great long weekend, day off tomorrow, which is always handy and nice without having to use your own time. So great weekend.
Yes, it is. It always seems like baseball gets more interesting as it gets warmer for me. It just seems like in April everybody's still defrosting in the Northeast, and just baseball has a different flavor and taste for me, certainly as the Memorial Day weekend gets here and beyond. It's a great no-hitter today you were telling me about.
Yeah, unfortunately your guys got no hit. The Phillies lost to Josh Beckett and the Dodgers. I believe the final was 6-0. And Beckett gets the first no-hitter of 2014, and I guess that's our story. That's our opening story for tonight.
Yeah, and what a tough story it is for the Phillies. They've had that sort of season though. They won yesterday. And they lost Friday night, and it just seems like a seesaw season for them, whereas they can go out and look great one night, and then the next night they get no hit, and it's just not very surprising to me that happened to them.
Yeah, it's in my team also, the Mets. They'll look good one game, and then the next game they'll look absolutely horrible. And so I guess that's just, when you're on the bottom of the standings, that's what it is.
Yes, indeed. And I wanted to thank Jake English from last week's show. Of course, his podcast, Bird's Eye View. And Gary, we have some great news for the listeners of this show in reference to our individual shows that we do on our own. Mine is Phillies Talk, and yours, of course, is the great Mets Musings, which I always listen to over at baseballtalkradio.com and at metsmusings.com. We're both back on iTunes.
Yay! Finally. As Peaches and Herb said, reunited, and it feels so good. So we are both back on iTunes. And also, Rich, I'd like to tell the people that there is an audio version of this show. If you can't catch the video, you can catch the audio. And that is available at MLBThisWeek.podomatic.com or on Stitcher Smart Radio, and hopefully soon to be on iTunes.
Yes, Stitcher Smart Radio is one of my favorite places to listen to audio, and you can take it on the go with you. You can download the app that they have to both Apple products and also Android products, and it's really a nice connection there with Stitcher. I like the way they share the statistics with the shows, and it's just really a nice package that they offer. And of course, for us, it's free, so it's very within our budget to offer it to our listeners. So
even better, you can't beat the price.
Yeah, well, Gary, you have a great story about the LA Dodgers being somewhat invisible to fans to start us off this week.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, but the Dodgers are not seen on television in about 70% of the greater Los Angeles area. The the most expensive team that money can buy has the most expensive apparently TV package, and what really happened was they signed a big deal with Time Warner Cable for $8.3 billion. I guess that's how they can pay that salary. And the Time Warner got the rights to the Dodgers and created Sportsnet LA. And then Time Warner then suggested to cable and satellite providers that they pay at least $4 a month more to carry the channel. and a fee that they've told the providers just pass it along to the subscribers. Well, every one of the providers apparently in that area told them no, thank you. They don't want to add it at $4 more per subscriber, and they don't want to pass it on to their subscribers. So it's a big problem now because this is a very popular team out there, and the hometown fans can't even see some of their games on television because of greed. And I know that they have an expensive payroll, but this is going to cost them. And what's it going to do to Time Warner? Because they practically, I believe, they guaranteed the money. So, they really should have had some kind of deal in place ahead of time with DirecTV that they would carry it because they're the biggest sports programming player out there. But they did not, and they promised, I think it's $330 million a season for the next 25 years. So they could be in trouble, Time Warner, up there. Not to mention that it's not doing the Dodgers any good either.
Yeah, that's a little bit, sometimes that happens in the Philadelphia area, in the tri-state area of New Jersey and Delaware. The Comcast Sportsnet has the contract for the Phillies, and I happen to have Verizon Fios. So some of the games I do not get to see locally with the Phillies, and Comcast will put them on a channel that no other station can carry except for Comcast. So I know firsthand some of the pain that the Dodger fans are going through out there, and it's really kind of strange, but these multi-billion-dollar contracts that we're hearing about with certain teams, the Dodgers being one of them, is the reason for this. And when these companies are paying so much money, they want somewhat of an exclusive arrangement with a team, and it's not really fair to make everybody across the company pay extra money just to carry the Dodgers or whatever team it happens to be, just to have them shown on TV. A lot of people aren't baseball fans, unfortunately, and they shouldn't really have to pay extra, in my opinion, to carry something that they won't watch.
And the other side of that, I guess, is if MLB got smart, they would do something with their MLB TV, because the blackout rules are kind of ridiculous. And because I looked into it one time, and if you get MLB, whatever it is, for $130 a season, it's great. You get all the games, but all of your local teams are blacked out. And even if I don't know all the rules, but I think even if if you try to get the road version of it, that's blacked out as well. So it's kind of a crazy thing, and but that's where I think they have to start. I think they have to get rid of those blackout rules. That would open up that MLB.TV, and that would that would open this whole thing up. But then again, then they'd be in opposition to their own team. So I guess the owners would vote for that.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, especially when these companies are paying so much money, and a lot of fans are getting slighted. I know in this area, DirecTV, as you said, does not carry the Phillies games. So everybody with satellite is completely out of the loop in the Philadelphia area as far as DirecTV is concerned. They don't have any of the games. So yeah, it's kind of a strange thing, but MLB does offer a great app that you can watch a lot of the games. It might not be your local games, but most of the schedule is always available. And you can also listen to audio from both teams on a specific game. And it's really worthwhile to get. In that situation, you might want to check that out. It's well worth the investment. Well, let's move over to our next story here, Gary, and I found this one hard to believe. I read it just the other day, and it was the first time in history, 75 years of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, that a president has actually visited the National Baseball Hall of Fame. And, of course, Barack Obama making it on May 22nd. He was the first president ever to visit the Hall of Fame. Very surprising to me, Gary.
And it sounds very surprising, Rich. I would have thought that with Taft and Eisenhower and all the other big baseball fans in the White House, that at least one would have gotten up there, but apparently not. And Mr. Obama is the first one to go there.
Yeah, and of course, I have it up on my screen here to share with you here. I'm not sure how good the video will come through, but let's see if we can't take a look-see here and see how it looked to Mr. Obama, President Obama, as he walked through the Baseball Hall of Fame there. Of course, being shown a lot of the memorabilia, and he's always pictured with the teams as well that win the World Series. So it was probably a great occasion for him to be able to visit the hall and have that tour.
No doubt, it's a great place to visit, and even if you're president, and he gets a private tour, so it's even better, I guess.
Yeah, it should be. And he looked like he had a great time there. And this weekend, actually, the Memorial Day weekend, was a great Legends of the Game weekend at the Hall of Fame. A lot of ex-players, Pedro Martinez, Hideki Matsui, and the 2014 Home Run Derby champion there in Cooperstown, New York, was Alex Gonzalez of the Blue Jays fame there. And very cool that they actually have games as well there right at the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. It's called Doubleday Field, and that's where they hold these events. And believe it or not, sometimes there's not too many people there. So if you ever see these events, you might want to jump in your car and get over there, because you can see some great things that you just don't see all the time on a big league stadium, because this Doubleday Field is actually quite small. It's almost slightly bigger than a high school type stadium, and you get really up close and personal with the players.
That you certainly do. It does. I remember it as a kid being up there, and it was very small. And of course, they used to play an exhibition game between the American League and the National League team, usually after the day after the Hall of Fame ceremonies. And of course, if you don't mind, I have a story about Doubleday Field.
Yeah, sure.
When I was a kid, we went up there, and I don't know who the guy was, what his name was, but there was some guy there with his father, and he was in a full St. Louis Cardinals uniform. And again, I don't know how. I guess he looked like a high school kid, maybe college age. I was like 9, 10 or something, and I had my glove, and the father said, "Oh, you want to have a catch with him?" Never got the guy's name, never found out, or if we got the guy's name, it's lost to family history somewhere. And I had a catch with this guy in his full St. Louis Cardinals uniform, and don't know who the heck he was. Could have been a future player, might have been a minor league guy, who knows? I'll never know. But that's my Doubleday Field. But it was right on the field, at Doubleday Field there, and it was fun.
Yeah, that does sound like a great story. My wife and I went a couple years ago, and I remember seeing Ozzie Smith on the field. I forget exactly what was going on there. They had some exhibition games and things like that, but I could just go up in the stands, have a seat, and they were playing baseball, and these legends of the game were walking by. I was like, oh, there's Ozzie Smith, and guys that I grew up watching
Right.
every day on television over the years, and it's just a really magical place. And again, I suggest all of our listeners and people that watch us on YouTube, check it out. Make a trip. Take your time. It's for most of us, it's an overnight trip. It's sort of stuck away in the center of New York State there. So take a trip. You might like it. And Gary, you have another great story of the week for MLB this week.
Well, Rich, the free agent class was a couple of holdouts remaining, and one finally signed this week as Stephen Drew signed a $10 million contract, a one-year deal, with the actually it was a prorated deal, but because he waited so long, he's only going to get about $10 million this year. And we say only, but actually his agent, in essence, cost him $4 million because he could have took this deal at the end of the season or in the off season. He got paid the whole $14 million and been with the team all this time, and he held out for more money. There was no takers, and now finally, because the draft pick compensation attached to qualifying offers is ended, he could sign, but at a lesser amount. Now, of course, his agent is Scott Boras, and Boras has come out and attacked the system, saying that it's broken because a lot of these guys that had compensation attached to them that got qualifying offers, the teams didn't want to go after them because they didn't want to lose their draft pick. And this is the way baseball's going. But this rule has been in effect for a few years now, and it was agreed upon by the players in the last bargaining agreement. So I don't get the argument by Boras because it was his guys that approved it and voted for it. So in essence, he lost $4 million, and who knows what else he lost on his career sitting out this first part of the year. So, but he finally signed Stephen Drew, so I guess he's not going to come to the Mets or the Phillies, as everybody was saying or thinking that he might. But he's in baseball, back in baseball now, and good for him, I guess. Look, $10 million's nothing to sneeze at either. So I mean,
yeah, that's a nice tidy sum. I think he'll make probably more than we will combined in our careers. But yeah, that's the thing. Baseball players nowadays, it's more about money sometimes. And these players years ago would never sit out for 4 months of a season. That would be just unheard of to do, say 15, 20 years ago in the game of baseball. And the game of baseball has changed quite a bit. It's become very much a monetary thing for a lot of players, and kind of a shame, really. I know that in the end they usually get their money, and but it's a different game nowadays, especially with the aspect of instant replay and other things like that. I know we've debated back and forth about instant replay, but what do you think about instant replay so far this year, Gary?
I think the jury's still out on that, Rich. It's good and it's bad. I don't like the time that it takes, but you have to. They're going to work through that. I think it'll get quicker. I still don't understand why the crew chief can't have an earplug in with the technology and having somebody just say to him, "You missed the call. He was out or safe or whatever. Foul ball, fair ball." Instead of having to this silliness with going out there to pretend to argue until you get a sign from your video guy.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, as you said, and that's the weirdest moment when the game gets held up by a call, what we see and hear first, at least from some of the TV broadcasters of the game, are, well, he was safe or he was out. Well, in the dugout in the clubhouse, or actually in the clubhouse, they have TVs on, and it's kind of a no-brainer to some of these teams. They either give them a thumbs up to dispute the play or a thumbs down that, yeah, he was out or whatever. So that's the bogus part of this whole thing, is they're already seeing the replay, and then they're giving the thumbs up or thumbs down for the manager to go out there and challenge it. So it's sort of, well, wait, we'll watch and determine if he was safe or out first, and then we'll contest it, have the game held up, have them call out to New York, which to me is a very, like you said, it's an odd part of the game. They're coming onto the field with a couple headphone sets for the umps, and they connect via cellular probably to New York, or a wired connection probably. But very strange, and I think it's in its infancy, of course, this year as it started, MLB replays, that is. And it's got a long way to go, and I just don't go for the aspect of a team already watching the play. They've got 5 replays done before they come out on the field and say, yes, we want to dispute this. So they're really getting a leg up on knowing whether a guy is safe or out.
Well, the thing, they do the same thing in hockey, but it seems to go a lot quicker. I don't know if they have a challenge system there. I think part of it could be the challenge system, maybe the amount of challenges. Maybe if they gave them 3 challenges or 2 challenges, then on a play they could throw a flag out like they do in football, and then the umps immediately go look at it. I don't know if that's the answer, but I think the one challenge is what sets up this whole we better check it, and the whole Caesar thing, thumbs up or thumbs down, because of just the one challenge that they have.
And that's the whole point of it. These baseball replays are getting so good that the booth runs these plays 3 or 4 or 5 times before the manager comes onto the field, and they already know the answer. Mm-hmm. So I would think either something like you suggested, or within the first 5 seconds of a play, it would have to be contested, because now most of the time you're getting a skewed result for most of these plays being overturned, because these teams already know the answer. They already know that he was safe at first or second or out, and they know that they're going to be right, so they're coming out and disputing the call after they know what the answer is. So,
oddly enough, the other night the Mets made a protest. They appealed, and they were quite emphatic about it. And even the replays that they were showing on television, it was quite clear that they were in the wrong. So, I don't know who was watching that, but what I was watching was definitely not clear at all.
Yeah, and I think the rule is clear and convincing. That's what they always say on certain broadcasts that I watch. The evidence needs to be clear and convincing. So it's got a long way to go. We'll see how the twists and turns start to happen with MLB replays. And that'll take us right into the next story here, Gary. And I thought it would be fun to look at attendances and how they've changed over a season from 2013 to 2014. And, of course, one of the best places that I can find this information is right here. It's baseball-reference.com. They have an ongoing list throughout the season of the different teams, their rankings. You can change the rankings from high to low, low to high. And as we're looking at this graphic here, it looks like the Pittsburgh Pirates, of all 30 MLB teams, have had the most increase in fans this year. Already they're up 125,000 fans over the same amount of games last year in 2013. The Miami Marlins, a big surprise as well. They are ranking second so far as we're doing the show here, and this, of course, is through May 24th, 2014. They're at 95,679 plus there in Miami. And of course, they've played a lot better this year, Gary, so that could be a good reason for the increase in fans down there. It's good to see, though. And we also, I don't have any picture here. Are you there, Gary? And it seems like I may have lost Gary. He may have had some um, something happen to his connection. But anyway, I will go along with the story here. Boston is in third place. They're up. They have 82,000 plus fans. And on the bottom three here, very surprising, the 28th team in baseball, the Atlanta Braves, minus 140 or 104,000 fans as we go into play here on May 25th. And the next two lowest, worst teams in comparison with last year, the Toronto Blue Jays, and then bottoming out in the league, the 30th team here, the Philadelphia Phillies. No surprise, they're not making it happen on the field, and they are down minus 162,000 fans. There are the Phillies. And Gary, you're back.
I'm back. I didn't know if it was me or you or what.
Yeah, it looked like you dropped connection out of the showroom, but I'm glad to see you back here. I was just talking about the teams that were worst in the league as far as fans from one year to the other, and very surprising, I was talking about the Atlanta Braves at 28, the Toronto Blue Jays at 29, and the Philadelphia Phillies are rounding it out at the worst team in comparison with last year's attendance at home.
Wow, that's really something, because the Phillies were usually way up in that attendance there. But it's like anything else, Rich. Prices are going up, and teams aren't playing that well, and people just don't want to dish out the money.
Yeah, that's for sure. A lot of the fans, they're not wanting to pay a whole lot of money to see a team lose. And of course, as we kicked off this show on May 25th, we were talking about the Phillies being no-hit today. Josh Beckett, a nemesis of the Phillies, used to play with the Red Sox, and now he's with those LA Dodgers.
And the Marlins too, and apparently the pitcher for the opposing pitcher at one point. Not today. I'm sorry, I got my stories mixed up.
That's all right.
I was thinking, maybe it was today. A.J. Burnett, he's with the Phillies this year, right?
Yeah, Burnett's
and they
signed on probably with a one-year deal with the Phillies. I don't see him going too much further.
Well, that they were former teammates in Miami, and apparently Beckett was on the bench when Burnett pitched a no-hitter as a teammate, and now he is the victim of Beckett's first no-hitter. So.
Wow, that's amazing. And this ties in with our next story. The Red Sox in the past week or so, plus, have dropped 7 games in a row. With their last 6 games in a row, they have lost at home. So talk about a bad week for the Red Sox, Gary. They've really kind of fell apart here in the past week.
Quite a head scratcher there, Rich. Who knows? World champions, and now they're in, I believe, last place in their conference. And what are they doing that's different from last year? I mean, it seems like they had pretty much the same team. They did lose Ellsbury. But it's really, one man should not affect the team that much. But
that's for sure. Yeah, that's amazing what has happened in only 10 games or so. And there's an update to the story. I had researched this a couple nights ago when I was making my notes for this show, Gary, and they
Mhm.
are now up to, as of including today, which is May 25th, 2014, they're up to 10 games lost in a row. Their last 10, they've assumably fell apart. They're now 20 and 29. And looking at the American League East, Toronto has now assumed control up there, and it's a very volatile American League East this year.
Certainly is. There's no clear-cut favorites, and everybody seems to be bunched together. And in a lot of the divisions in baseball, people are all bunched together. There's no clear-cut team jumping out, other than maybe Milwaukee and the Giants. Giants are playing some good ball, but man, I guess this is a parody.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting the way these teams are moving up and down the standings. Let's round out the rest of the American League, Gary, and then if you like, you can take either the National League or I could keep going with it. In the Central, it's Detroit, 28 and 18 record. They're anchoring the American League Central there, leading it. They lost their last two games, but doesn't seem to phase them too well. Doesn't seem to phase them that much actually. Kansas City kind of far behind them at 24 and 25. And out west, big surprise for me, Billy Beane and the Oakland A's, 30 and 20, 5 and 5 in their last 10. Although they've lost 4 in a row, Gary, they're still on top of the American League West.
Yeah, it's amazing what he's doing out there, and that's a small payroll team. Of course, that's one of those Moneyball teams, but I think what people are missing about that, it's not all the Moneyball and the sabermetrics. He was able, when he did that when he first got there, but in the interim built the farm system, and now that's paying off. All those bad years of finishing last built up the farm system, and now it's paying these. The kids are coming and they're playing good ball, and with a well-placed player here and there. That's how you build a team nowadays in the modern baseball.
And out west as well, second place, American League West, the LA Angels, 28 and 21. They've poured it on a little bit, 7 and 3 in their last 10. And as we go into Memorial Day here, and they're doing great as well. The Angels, built to win, a team that I had thought would be doing this a couple years now, but all of a sudden it seems like maybe they have that magic combination out there in Los Angeles Angels land.
Well, they got Trout, and Pujols is healthy, and now if they get Josh Hamilton healthy out there, they'll be better. Their pitching staff seems to be holding up, and maybe they can make a run at Oakland.
Yeah, that's possible. American League, or actually, we'll jump over to the National League. Are you ready for the National League East?
Well, as I said, that's a close race too. They're all bunched up, and Atlanta's been struggling. They've only been 6 and 4 over their last 10, and they're actually 10 and 11 on the road. And yet they're 3 games ahead of the surprise team in the division, the Miami Marlins, who are 1 game over 500 at 26 and 25. And because they do all their damage at home, they're 20 and 8, Rich, at home, 6 and 17 on the road. So,
and that just goes to show you how Miami has all of a sudden attracted bigger crowds there. Some fans like to go see a team win. There's nothing wrong with that. And the Miami Marlins have delivered with that 20 and 8 record, Gary, as you said. Surprise for me, the Atlanta Braves. What happened to Braves fans? Have they voted with their tickets here? The Braves have been on top of the National League East for a while now, yet attendance is way down. Very interested in that.
And, well, they always seem to have had a problem drawing there. They drew enough. I can remember some playoff games where they were, saying couple hours before the start of the game that there were still tickets available. So don't know what the problem is there, because they've certainly had winning teams consistently. And I mean, years ago they had real bad teams. I can remember when they'd have like 100 people in a ballpark, but they have had consistently winning teams over the last almost 20 years, and still have a problem drawing. But back to that NL East, the surprise to me is the Washington Nationals are at 500, Rich, and that's really a shocker with the way that team is built. I really feel that there's some problem there with the manager. We'll see. I don't know. Matt Williams is a sort of a no-nonsense guy, and they weren't used to that, the players. And, whether or not they may not be responding to him and his methods, first-year manager. But there are some other first-year managers that aren't having a problem. Brad Ausmus, off the top of my head. And let's see, then the Mets and the Phillies are bringing up the rear in a division in a virtual tie for, we'll say, fourth place instead of last place.
That's a kind remark for both teams.
Yeah. And in the Central, we mentioned already the Milwaukee, and as I look at the standings, they're not really running away with it. They only got a 2-game lead on the St. Louis Cardinals. And then Cincinnati comes in under 500. They're 6 back. Pittsburgh's starting to crawl up a little bit. They're 5 games under 500, and they're 7 games back. And the Cubs are bringing up the rear in that division. And the Cubs are just, the poor Cubs, they just can't get out of their own way. The West NL is got the Giants, as we said. They're 5 games ahead of those surprising Colorado Rockies, and the Dodgers, who are 5.5 behind. And then comes the Padres and the Diamondbacks, who took 2 out of 3, unfortunately, this weekend here in New York. So they've hit the 20-win mark, as most teams, except I think for the Cubs and the Astros, are the only ones that are still in the teens. And that's standings.
Yep, and I just checked. The Cubbies are only down 12,000 fans in comparison with last season. And those fans are great out there. They support their team wonderfully. They have an average attendance so far of 32,415 per game. And what can you say about fans like that? They actually have more fans per game at home than the Braves. The Braves average 26,692, Gary. So you can see that through thick and thin, those Cubby fans stand by their Cubs.
They certainly do, and the new owners of the Cubs are wanting to make the fan experience a little bit better, so they want to move ahead with some renovations on Wrigley Field, and they plan on doing that, even if it involves a lawsuit. They're gonna go ahead with these renovations, and the whole thing is the big fight is over a video screen that is going to block some of those rooftop seats, and that's what the people across the street that have those seats on the roof of their buildings are fighting. Apparently, it's a big money maker now, and it's funny. When I was a kid, and they used to show Wrigley Field and those the buildings across the street, there were a couple of chairs there. Now they've got these big fancy stands, and apparently they've got a bar up there that sells, and I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know why the city ever let them get away with that. And they made a deal, I guess, between the city and the Cubbies at one point. But it seems to me it's a ridiculous thing to really fight this thing. They need to expand. They need to modernize at least the amenities in the field. They don't have to do you don't have to rip down the whole stadium. For instance, the Dodgers did a big multi-million-dollar thing where they ripped out the whole lower deck and redid it and put in a new clubhouse and all of that, weight rooms and all of that, and yet didn't touch anything. They painted, they did all the good things, but really it looks the same as it always did, only it's much more up to date now, and that's what they want to do at Wrigley, try to bring up more up to date and over a video screen. And to tell you the truth, I don't know who's right or wrong, the owners or these people that own these rooftop seats, but the owners said they're going to go home, and they are negotiating with them, the rooftop venues, but they claim it's back to square one, the negotiations, and they're going to just move on. So, and the rooftop owner says they're going to fight it. So, it's going to be one of those things to watch and see what happens as time goes on. But it's really a shame because they really need something to just bring. It's a great stadium, and but it does need some work. And I hate to see them fight over a rooftop stadium.
Yeah, that's very neat how Chicago has lasted this long without a significant upgrade to Wrigley Field. And it kind of reminds me of a few years ago, many years ago now actually, when I went to the original Yankee Stadium #1, I guess they called it. It did look dated to me. I sat out in the bleachers, and they had a certain entrance just for the bleachers, and I remember walking through it and saying, Jesus, looks so antiquated compared with some of the newer stadiums. So, yeah, I think the Cubbies fans have lasted long enough with that older Wrigley Field. Would be time to bring them into the modern age a little bit, give them some of the amenities that a lot of people have enjoyed for years in the different stadiums. But we'll see how that story shakes out, Gary. And, well, this edition, MLB This Week, is about to come to a close. Gary, any closing thoughts for this week in the show?
Well, Rich, I've got one from the You Can't Make This Stuff Up file, and that is that, let me get this right, Dodgers infield prospect Alex Guerrero had a part of his ear bitten off by one of his teammates, Miguel Olivo, according to Guerrero's agent, Scott Boras. And there's that name again. He seems to be in on everything, Boras.
Yeah.
And the alleged incident occurred during the Dodgers' Albuquerque-based affiliate 7-4 defeat Salt Lake City. According to Boras now, the altercation resulted from a seventh-inning throw Olivio, the catcher, made to Guerrero's shortstop. Olivio was stressed about it, and they had some words going into the dugout. Guerrero was in the far end of the dugout. He went to the front to get his bat and helmet to hit. As he walked across, Olivio decked him. Guerrero and Olivio had to be separated by teammates, and according to Boras, when players pulled off Olivio, he had a piece of Guerrero's ear in his mouth, and he was scheduled to undergo plastic surgery to reattach part of his ear. So, like I said, you can't make this stuff up. Escalating violence on the same team, which is really kick in the head. And just to follow up on this, Miguel Olivo was released a few days later by the Dodgers, and don't think there was any criminal charges pressed against him, but he's looking for a job. If somebody's looking for a cannibalistic catcher, he may just be the guy you want to hire.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, and it's probably not one that a lot of people heard. I know I didn't see it come over my radar of stories I generally watch from baseball, but yeah, it's a competitive game, and some of these guys can lose sight of that. I'm surprised he really wasn't charged, because that's very that goes above anything that would happen in professional sports, even hockey. I don't think they resort to that. But interesting story there, Gary, for our listeners this week on the Week in MLB, the MLB This Week Show, and another entertaining show. Gary, can't wait for the next one, and we'll have some updates on the MLB All-Star voting. Maybe some of our favorite players will be making it to the game, and we'll have that on our 11th edition of MLB This Week Show next week, as well as a lot more.
I'm looking forward to it, Rich, and you have a great week, and I hope everybody out there has a great week also.
Yes, and happy Memorial Day weekend as well to all the servicemen out there. MLB This Week Show would like to thank everyone that is a veteran for protecting our country and keeping it so great. And we'll welcome you back on next week's show of the MLB This Week Show.